What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and give you guys my future forecast for NIO for the next upcoming months that are very, very important for you to know, and also talk about what NIO's share price may do based off fib retracement levels and based off all the different factors that are coming out for the future. Now, before I break anything down about NIO's share price and talk about the important dates coming up, what you should be prepared for, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NEO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And you could always sell these 12 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NEO shares for free. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 10 days, so please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at NEO, we saw the thing take a bit of a hit on Friday, closing around the $17 range. And now I want to talk about the current future for NEO. So let's actually look at something very interesting. Right here, we have a price comparison chart between SPY and NEO, the blue line being SPY and the white line being NEO. And you guys can see the similar trend right over here. They tend to run very similarly. So if we are under the presumption that NEO is going to run very similar to the overall US markets, we know that it could show some very, very similar price action too. If you look at the price pairs ratio, there's also that similarity. It's actually decreasing a bit, but we're seeing some similarities here and there. Now, big analysts are saying that NEO is a big buy right over here from Citigroup to HSBC. Big banks and big analysts are very bullish on NEO for that reason, and I am super bullish for the long-term future. Now, I'm also very bullish for the US exchanges, US markets. If you're looking at the NASDAQ, if you're looking at SPY, I'm still very bullish for them, but for the short term, given everything going on in the markets, there is going to be some red to come, and that's the reason why NEO is most likely going to see some downside from here. Now, where NEO goes depends on SPY as well. SPY bounced off the 390 range many times over the last couple of days, and if we hold it for the next like few weeks, then it's very possible that NEO holds up. But if we break below it, NEO is most likely going to come down with SPY, even though it's not entirely NEO's fault. That is how the market essentially moves. So what's more likely to happen based off the daily chart on SPY? It looks like the SPY has more bearish momentum. It's going to push it down again, and we are most likely going to break below 390 in my opinion and end up hitting the 380s for the upcoming week or two. And with that said, this will most likely cause NEO to drop as well. Now, it's not NEO's fault, but this is how the market tends to work. And we could actually use a Fibonacci retracement comparing NEO from its previous low to the recent high it made to about that 24 range. And you could see the golden pocket happens to be around that $15 range. This is where the 0.61 and 0.65 happen to be. So what I'm going to be watching for is this. When NEO starts moving, I'm going to be watching for that 0.5 zone, because this could actually be the retracement level where NEO gets that bounce around 16.89, and maybe it starts to rally after that. But if we break below 16.89, all right, there's a gap at around $16 flat. I see that gap getting filled, and after that gap fill, we're most likely going to come down to the 15s, to this golden pocket zone, before getting a bounce from there. That's the way I would see it. So if you're watching this thing, please remember that I think it's probably we're going to kind of bounce depending on the dates. All right. So the first thing to remember before I draw this out, the 21st of September is the FOMC meeting. This is when the Fed is going to announce their changes to monetary policy. Many are anticipating the Fed is going to be more hawkish because the jobs reports are coming out in the USA. They're doing very well, and it's not the best of signs. And here's the reason why. Now, I want the best for employment in America and everyday Americans, but unemployment and employment are used as metrics to basically define how the market is doing, how the jobs market is doing, and demand in America. So if there's so many jobs being created, if our economy is growing a little bit too fast, this is typically what happens in those higher inflationary environments. So the Fed can't have that happen for too long. because we need demand in America to slow down to bring down inflation. Otherwise, we could be in a very, very bad situation if this goes on for too much longer. So we want inflation to be low, 2% to promote slow, steady growth in our economy. So if it's too high, it's not going to be good. If there are too many good jobs reported during this potential recession phase, it's not good. That incentivizes the Fed to be more hawkish. So what this means is after September 21st, which is the line right here, I'm anticipating NIO and the overall market should get a nice bounce. And I do think this will help NIO push to the upside. Now, this is excluding additional factors such as what's going on in China. But if the market bounces, I do think NIO will bounce after that. Now, the next dates we have are between November 2nd and November 8th, 2022. These are going to be the big days for the US elections, the midterm elections, where we're having the US House of Representatives being reelected, not to mention 1/3 of the Senate. So it's going to be very important as well because many big businesses will change the way price action is depending on what the policies are. And policies are going to be important because they're affected by politicians, at least to some degree, or for the most part, I guess you could say that. So, with that said, I do think the future outlook will depend on that after. So, let me draw out what could end up happening once I get this to work. So, coming down, NEO is going to move depending on the overall market. I'm hoping we get a bit of a push up thanks to like earnings coming up. Maybe we push all the way back up to the 18 range. And then after earnings, we might continue to drop if the whole market does take a bit of a hit. And I want to see how NEO reacts to 16.89. All right. I want to see NEO bounce off that. If NEO doesn't bounce off that, right, then NEO is most likely going to fill the gap at 16 flat. All right. And if NEO ends up in this zone, it is most likely going to come down to this golden pocket zone. See the lines right here that are yellow? It's the golden pocket, the 0.618 and 0.65 retracement zone, and come to that $15 range. And that may be the bottom for NEO during this downtrend. All right. So then that's after the FOMC meeting. I anticipate a nice push up, some choppy price action maybe in the beginning, but a slow uptrend. And I think NEO and the whole market are going to start to recover, and we're going to get a nice push to the upside as we approach the midterm elections. And that's what I think is most likely going to happen. I think NEO is going to come back into like the $20 range, maybe the 20s, come back to this zone just like this. And what happens after that? What happens whether NEO pushes up or if it ends up dropping? It's going to depend on the elections, right? If elections are electing certain politicians and big businesses want a certain politician, we could get a nice move. If they have another agenda, if they try to like manipulate the market, for instance, we could get a big jump. I can't really predict that. It depends on the election. But until then, I do anticipate price action kind of like this. Now, please note that this is excluding additional factors such as more lockdowns in the US, which I think are very unlikely, but also in China. And I do think that this is another very important factor out there. Many people do talk about how the lockdowns are being used artificially. I don't want to really, come into any claims like that or make any political statements, but lockdowns are still on the table, and these do have negative effects on businesses for the sake of whatever the intention is behind them, which is one of the main intentions is to slow down the virus, bring cases down to zero. There could be other ones as well. I don't want to get into any details about that, but my point is it's very important for everyday people, especially neo investors, to know what could end up happening. Because if we do end up getting more and more cases spreading across all these big cities, if it does come to like Shanghai and this does end up slowing down their growth, it not only will affect supply chains, it will affect Neo's deliveries, their earnings per share, their PE ratio, their profitability, their revenue. All these things will be affected if we do get major lockdowns in Shanghai. Remember, it happened last time during the months of like April and May of the year. It happened before. So that's an additional factor. If there are major lockdowns let me go back here, in China, like happening between this time frame, we might not just rally in a straight line. That's another big factor to really consider. Now, there could be other factors such as the Chinese economy and things like that. In this model, I'm not talking about lockdowns or the overall model uh, going on in China, the economy. This is just what NEO may do if it's following the US trends and what's very likely to happen, because so far historically NIO has been following the US trends, the S&P 500, the SPY, the Nasdaq, they are dictating NIO, and I think it's very likely we are going to see something similar to this. Now, the biggest thing in my opinion that could really cause this to switch, like I said, would be lockdowns in China. As of right now, we're seeing lockdowns, but not in the key zones for NIO just yet, or as of right now. So I'm hoping for the best, and I want the best for each and every one of you. Now, this is not guaranteed. This is just one hypothetical situation that I think is very likely. So please do what you have to do. Don't invest based off of this. This is not financial advice. And I'll see you guys in the next video. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.